Ruthless, Rabid, Raging, Ravenous, Rampaging, Remorseless, Repulsive, Revolting, Repugnant Zombies by J. Wilburn. We are a touch over 35,000 words in, and my goal today is 37,500. We are quickly approaching the end of this novel at roughly 50,000 words. Excuse me so much. But there's work still to be done. And if it goes over 50,000 words, I may be marathoning on day 20 to get all that finished. But I have a pretty good idea of where it's going, and I think it's paced about right, which is probably why it feels a little tight to get all the information in, which makes me comfortable with the idea that I may be right at the 50,000 words in terms of my plan. All right, so we're in the midst of Chapter 17. Yep. I'm not going to reread all of Chapter 17, but I'm going to pick up on that last page. And that should roll us into the action, then we get right to the writing. Alright, so Piles of Bone continued on beyond the fence 2. Alright, he's running in an alley, there's this fence, he's going towards it, there's zombies everywhere, he's found all these zombies chained up, and the mob of zombies that he's accidentally led into this area is causing all sorts of havoc. And he's not sure who's involved in terms of putting these creatures up and what they're doing and even where he is exactly. There were also a couple zombies moving around on the other side. More than a couple, really, but Waldo figured fighting his way through them was better than staying over here with all these. As Waldo hit the fence and started to climb, a few undead on the other side turned to see him. They approached where his fingers stuck through the fence. The rest over there still seemed distracted by something the other way. Good enough, Waldo whispered as he started to pull himself up. Let's say upward. It's a small difference, but it means something. Gunfire roared down this passage from beyond the fence, in sharp contrast to the double pops behind him that seemed far more distant. Slugs rang off the brick ahead of him, but he did not see where those went. Other rounds definitely found their mark as bodies deeper through the pass folded to their knees and went down on the bone piles. As more heads burst, a spark popped one wire loop in the chain link between Waldo's hand and his head. He dropped down from his aborted climb and staggered backward into a crouch. He didn't know which way to go or what to do to keep from being bitten or shot or both. A few more sparks lit through the fencing and scattered bones off the tops of the piles. A few zombies on Waldo's side of the fence took damage to their joints or leaked from new holes opened through their bellies, but the pass-through bullets... Is pass-through going to be one more? No, I'm not going to hyphenate that. The pass-through bullets from over there didn't fell the ones reaching for Waldo now. I already said Waldo. Let me go with he here. Alright. He grabbed for anything at all. He came up with a long bone that had a severe-looking knob on the end. He wasn't familiar enough with anatomy to name it as a leg bone or arm bone with any confidence. Without taking time to think about or to consider the bullets still coming his way, he started swinging. All right, ing. He knocked off the lower jaw of one monster and twisted its head. All right, let me make this a new paragraph. He knocked off the lower jaw of one monster and twisted its head as it blinked above its dumb-looking overbite. Others he knocked off their feet and dented them up pretty badly. In the end, he only opened up the skulls of a couple of them. No, there we go. Sorry. I was right the first time. I'm editing in typos now. In the end, he only opened up the skulls of a couple to put them down permanently. All right, let me put a comma after couple. That'll help that flow a little better. But those couple times felt good. He ducked down as he heard, as he heard, I don't need couple and I don't need more. Now I'm editing out my word count. All right. He ducked down as he heard ricochets off brick and swung low into the body of a hefty monster. He heard and felt ribs shatter, but the impact absorbed the blow before he could draw back for another swing. All right, I'm going to add something in here and then break this into another paragraph. I'm here. Sorry I'm late. Was filling out my Twitch affiliate paperwork. Oh, snap. Armand Rosamilia. Armand Rosamilia has been on Twitch for a hot minute. So he has apparently just reached the 50, or maybe just reached or passed the minimum follower count to be able to get affiliate. But all the other things in terms of number of streams, hours streamed, and his average viewer count have always been very high from like his first stream. So that's very exciting. I'm excited for you. And after everybody, of course, has subscribed to me, then if you have an extra subscription, you should definitely send that Armand's way. But only after you subscribe to me first. That's really the proper order of things. But very proud of you, Armand, and I'm excited to see what you do with this platform because you're one of my favorite streamers already. So congratulations. I'm not jealous at all, but I'm just saying congratulations, and I think you're going to do big things here for real. With all seriousness, joking aside. All right, absorb the blow, and before he could draw back for another swing, Tom Duffy sends his congratulations as well. Good job, Armand. All right. A round, dimpled the other side of this bulky zombie, burrowed through its core and splintered Waldo's bone club on the way out to soar toward the mouth of this passage in the distance. Waldo's thoughts didn't come in complete sentences, in harrowing moments like this. I am very proud of you, Armand. I know I was throwing in some jokes there off the cuff, but I could tell from the beginning when you first started that you were so well equipped for this, and I know I'm laying it on, but I just want to say it anyway. I could tell, obviously, your experience with podcasting, your experience with radio, and video stuff you had already been doing had prepared you really well to be a good personality and comfortable and all that on camera. I know the technology was a little bit of a challenge at first, but you you tend to learn quickly as much as you give yourself crap for being a curmudgeon like myself, where new technologies are like foreign languages sometimes. I knew you'd pick it up fast because of all the other tech stuff that you eventually learned to do, and I could tell your stream was good right from the beginning, all the things you do. So this being the very beginning of that for you, I know that you're going to do big things. So when you're rich and famous and pretending you don't know me, every once in a while, just send me a wink or something. All right. Waldo's thoughts didn't come in complete sentences and harrowing moments like this. Okay, I think I hit a crazy button. All right. Crazy button disengaged. All right. Didn't come in harrowing moments like this. Sometimes he operated by lizard brain, comma, simply reacting moment to moment, where too much thought would slow him down and get him killed. Some thoughts came as images, either as a warning or a semi-lucid prophetic revelation. In this moment, he saw the image of one of those stray bullets tearing through him and splintering his bones as easily as that club. Alright. The zombies grabbing for him ended up pulling his nice bone club out of his grasp. It was splintered anyway. He tried to comfort himself. His gut reaction was to propel himself backward into and between one of the clusters of bones piled high. I don't know why I just wrote eyes, isn't that weird? Piled high against the wall. How much bone would it take to stop a bullet? That wasn't the sort of thing they put into word problems back when he was a kid and the dead had the decency to stay on their effing backs. Like respectable corpses should. That information would have been quite useful to Waldo in that moment. The zombies lost, let's say the bullet-riddled zombies lost interest in his bone club and came after him in his rough nest of bones right in front of them. Alright, going to consult my notes real quick. I think I know what I'm doing, but I'll end up just plowing forward and leaving things out. Alright. Blast apart. Backs into an alcove. Just have a bullet. Waldo returned to the instincts that helped him find his first weapon. Waldo returned to the instincts that helped him find his first weapon. He grabbed up what might have been a shin bone. It was thinner than the thigh or arm bone he had grabbed earlier. Less heft, but felt solid enough. He had the perfect moment to test it. As the zombie closest to him grabbed him by the straps of his pack. All right. Cruising right along here. Okay. Waldo swung into its head. And the bone snapped along a hairline fracture. Waldo couldn't have known about. He wanted to grab for a replacement, but the hungry cadaver leaned in for a sample of Waldo's neck. In close quarters, Waldo made a desperate stab up into the creature's face. Barely a foot away from his own. All right. Not from his own. If I write in Owen, I have a new character. Maybe the zombie's name is Owen, like Waldo knew him before or something. Okay. The sharp point at the end. Come on now, Jay. Put in all the letters in the words. That's how people will know what you're trying to say. Pro tip, when you're writing a book, put in all the letters in the words and people will know what you're trying to say. The sharp point at the end of the splintered shin bone hit the zombie on the bridge of the nose. The skin sliced open, and the the spot where the cartilage met bone bent with spongy give. The zombie kept on the pressure, not giving a F about its nose, as all it wanted in its second life was inches away. The point slipped. The point slipped to one side. And this is going to get gross, guys. And the thing's eye, with its blown out pupil, burst like a pocket of gray jelly. The shin bone fit smoothly down the bored out eye socket. Yeah, let's make that 2 words. The bored out eye socket, several inches into the skull before all the tension went out of the dead muscles all at once. Ooh, how was that for a description? All right, maybe some of the grossest stuff in the book. That's what makes the copies fly off the shelf with this kind of fiction, I guess. All right. Its weight settled on him as more bodies more, let's say, lively bodies behind this twice dead sack of rot. Its weight settled on him as more lively bodies behind this twice dead sack of rot pressed in with crushing force and no other plan than to keep coming for the living flesh, say for Waldo's living flesh. He wanted out from under them, but he also didn't care to move the body between them. That, let's say, New paragraph. That decision got made for him. That decision got made for him as the zombies clawed the body with the shin bone in its eye aside. As Waldo snagged another piece of bone, the pile around him shifted. As Waldo snagged another piece of bone, the pile around him shifted. The body itself wasn't completely off him. As a shower of bones, rolled over him in his struggles. Okay. Say bullet. Say a bullet zinged off the brick across from him and sent a skull spinning off one of the piles into the air. That'll do. Let's not make it a skull. Let's say it sent a skull and a broken pelvis spinning off one of the piles into the air. That'll work. Alright, that's a little different. Okay. He hadn't gotten another bone good for swinging, so he stabbed again. This time he went for the eye on purpose. This one didn't burst as much as it deflated, and the surface of the ruined eye. If you guys got an eye thing where this bothers you, I'm sorry, but I am writing about zombies here. Alright. This one didn't burst as much as it deflated, and the surface of the ruined eye stretched back into the skull like a tough skin over old pudding. How's that for a description of a busted eye? Alright. The bone shard wasn't very long, so Waldo had to use the heel of his hand to push it into the socket far enough, into the socket far enough to puncture the brain. The zombie helped by pushing its weight forward until it went limp and fell over Waldo sideways, bringing down more bones. He was buried enough to make it hard to move, even without the bodies leaning against him. But his arms and face remained exposed to give the rest of the monsters a solid target. In a brief lull, let me do a new paragraph here, sorry. In a brief lull, he felt for larger bones that he could strike with over and over, but he came up with nothing but small pieces. Whoever these people were who contributed to these piles, they should have drank more calcium. Let's see, Waldo settled on the sharpest shards he could put his hands on. And then he put them to use. Waldo mostly went for the eyes, but on a couple occasions he stabbed through their ears. It was a tougher place to get to the brains, but it seemed to be a shorter journey. Waldo had no way of knowing if that was true, or if he was imagining it in his frenzy of self-defense. Okay, let's spell defense correctly. Alright. Alright, where are we? something rattled off to the side as Waldo held up one more zombie with his gory right arm. Alright, let me fix that. Alright, something rattled off to the side as Waldo held up one more zombie with his gory right arm as he searched for another bone sharp enough and long enough to reach its brain. Settling on one, he pressed the bone into the monster's socket, already missing an eye. Waldo felt something hard in there that didn't want to give. The rest of the zombies. Okay, hold on a second. My phone was losing charge there, so I needed to plug it in. Waldo felt something hard in there that didn't want to give. The rest of the zombies turned to the side. The rest of the zombies turned to the side and moved toward the fence, like Waldo had become uninteresting. Okay, what is next? All right. Waldo pressed harder on the bone, and the obstruction hidden in the corpse's head it moved a little and then popped inward to a cold ooze of I don't want to say fluid. We'll just go with goo. A cold ooze of goo that flowed past Waldo's hand. The zombie kept struggling. The zombie kept struggling as it clawed the bone pile. So much, let's say so many bones slid over him that Waldo could barely see. He pushed his fingers into the oozing eye socket deeper and deeper until the monster finally gave up in a final convulsion. No, until the monster, not finally gave up, until the monster gave up in a final convulsion. Alright, monster gave up in a final convulsion. It collapsed on top of him and the other accumulated bodies. Okay. Waldo almost felt like he was under one of those weighted blankets. Waldo almost felt like he was under one of those weighted blankets, except those didn't come with a bunch of sharp bone poking into every part of your body. Say Waldo could only see a small tunnel out of the pile that buried him. There were no zombies waiting at the end of that tunnel. Alright, 2 ofs. I don't need 2 ofs. There's enough ofs in this world. Just use the ones you need. There were no zombies waiting at the end of that tunnel. So he took the rare moment to take a breath. Even with that cold flow of eye gunk running down his neck, it was nice to not fight for his life for a second or two. The fence rattled again. Alright, the fence rattled again. Waldo hoped whatever had distracted them would keep doing it. He could wait under here, as uncomfortable as it was, until they all wandered off somewhere else. Okay. Another, let's say a single gunshot roared closer than any other so far. Waldo startled, shifting the bones around him. a little more. Stop wasting them, a voice said. Use the bayonet. Alright, let me spell that correctly. Use the bayonet through the fence first. Why were they on this side? Who knows? We need to get them away from both sides. Metal screeched and bodies fell out. It all took place outside Waldo's narrow view, but he pictured knives through the fencing into the heads. All right. Without much calculation, Waldo wiggled from side to side, trying to get deeper into the pile of bones. He made sure his arms were covered as well. Okay, we're about at the end of this chapter, but nowhere near where I'm going to stop, so just a little bit more here. Keys jingled, and then he heard the fence rolling sideways. It was a gate, and the shooters were stepping through it to his side. All right, 18. What's going to happen in chapter 18? Well, you are about to find out, because I still have more writing to do today for my goal. All right, rolling right along. The deeper of the two voices said, whoever is responsible for this is going to get spiked in the street for sure. Waldo had an idea of where that zombie zoo out in the market area had come from. Okay. deep voice added after a pause. They'll probably let them die slow too. All right. Dialogue. What the F happened? This second voice was not as deep, but was full of gravel. Okay, we'll leave it at that. The chain link gate rolled again. Waldo couldn't tell whether it was opening wider or sliding closed again. He just tried his best not to move or to breathe too loudly. All right. Something did pass through his line of sight. A zombie in a bloody dress moved by. She sounded like she walked on bare feet, slapping the ground quietly, but Waldo couldn't see down that far. One shot startled him again, and she pitched backward hard enough to kick her bare feet into Waldo's view. She was missing most of her toes along jagged black wounds. Okay. Let's say as she landed out of sight and Waldo's ears rung, one one of the men said, "Stop wasting the bullets. You're going to have them all on top of us, too." Waldo didn't pick up which one of them said it. Hold on, I'm going to turn off my heater real quick. It's getting warm in here. Deep voice spoke next as Waldo's ears cleared enough to tell it was him. Okay. Someone effed up. Someone effed up on the patrol. Okay, I don't know what a patrol is, so let me spell that: patrol. Someone effed up on the patrol. Okay, effed up big. All right. So we got Waldo listening in on this conversation. Two men, too large to see fully, as they passed Waldo's specific line of sight. Two men, too large to see fully, as they passed Waldo's line of sight, stepped beyond his pile in the passage toward the main street, still humming with the growls of thousands of undead. Okay, that looks fine. Let's keep this moving along. All right. One of them passed by again, and from the sound and the shift, let's say from the sounds and the shift of his body weight, Waldo judged he was moving the corpses with his boot. Maybe that was where all these bones came from. That didn't make sense, though. Because these bones looked old and clean, with no rags of clothing mixed in. All right. Moving right along. Gravel voice asked. Gravel voice said, GC, Jesus Christ, look at that pack. Coming from the north, sorry, who was patrolling and sweeping out there. Okay. Deep voice hummed and then answered. Pete and Crow. Alright. Maybe that explains it. Gravel said. Waldo thought of the Dyer truck and wondered if that was Pete and Crow. Mm-hmm. Not sure anything explains this shit. Deep grunted as he towed a few more bodies aside. Like, what do, wait, what the hell is this? Deep moved closer to Waldo's hiding spot. Right, poor Waldo, having to fight zombies and now having to hide for gunmen. Gravel turned as he spoke his single word. Let's say a single word. What? This, Deep said, very close now. All right. The body near Waldo got kicked. And the bone shifted. His tunnel out of the pile to the rest of the world grew more, let's say, narrowed. That was fine with him, as he didn't want to see and didn't want to be seen. Okay. All right, I'm gonna break this paragraph away from the dialogue tag because it's getting long and it doesn't necessarily need to be there. All right. That was fine. He didn't want to see, nor did he want to be seen. Let's say Deep added they have bones sticking. Say they all have bones sticking out of their eyes and ears. Ones over here have bullet holes through their heads, Gravel said. I'm talking about the ones over here. Look. Gravel's feet approached. From the sound of it, the ground was wet. Yeah, weird. Let's get in position. And be sure no more of them come this way. Okay, let me have him. His voice, let's say his gravelly voice. His gravelly voice retreated again. All this stuff will have to be reset. You know? I hope Pete and Crow get their D's eaten off before they get spiked. There was a pause. Gravel spoke again. What's wrong? Come on. It's more than weird. Deep was Deep was leaning over Waldo's spot. He couldn't see him, but I'll say he couldn't see the guy, but he was right on him. He was right on Waldo. Okay. I want to make this scene super tense if I can. Alright. How'd these things get stabbed in the eyes like this? Probably shrapnel from bullets flying. Way too many bullets. You get me? There's no other holes in the heads, Deep insisted. Okay. Trying to make sure I get all this detail in. Two shots roared into the ground near Waldo's feet. Skin, hair, and blackened brains spit up into the air past Waldo's view hole. He tried his best to stay very, very still. See, that's how you get to 50,000 words. You use two varies instead of one. That's the magic. All right. Waldo's ears rung again, but he could still... Nope, that's not how you spell still. He could still make out Gravel saying, "Feel better?" I will when I'm sure they're dead. They're all dead. Quiet followed. Waldo tried to listen closer. All right. Kind of a mistake to listen closer when people are firing guns, don't you think? The explosion next to his head was so very loud that it blew something up inside Waldo's right ear. The pain, how would you say that? The pain penetrated through his ear and into his skull, leading Waldo's disconnected thoughts to think that he'd been shot or stabbed through that ear hole. Nothing else could explain, could rectify that pain in his mind at that moment. So I'm having where Waldo got his eardrum burst or something there, I think. I'm not going to specify where that's exactly what happened. The entire... Let's do a new paragraph. The entire pile of bones around him I keep using the word shifted, around him pulsed with the force of it. The head of a zombie. Let's say the head of the oozing zombie. Of the oozing zombie over Waldo and slightly to the right burst in a spray of into, let's say, into a cloud of spray. He felt it on his face, but barely registered it through his agony. The bones within his sight changed shade from all that splatter. Okay. We're getting there, folks. I keep using the word bones, but he's in a pile of bones. What else am I going to say? The bones in the path of that bullet shattered down to the concrete floor where the slug finally stopped. Taking Waldo's hearing on that side with it. He thought his ears rang before. Now the entire world was a high-pitched note that drowned out most other sounds to muffled background noise. All right. Here's the problem with using weapons like that in a story: the fact that the consequences are permanent. So having a shot fired that close to someone's ear would be permanent hearing loss, and it would not recover fast enough, probably, for this hero to not have trouble going forward. Okay, let's add up here. Bone chips stung his neck. And that's good enough. I was going to add more detail, but that covers it. Alright, so we have the consequences of this. As that screaming ring filled the right side of his head with unending pain, Waldo wanted to stab a bone through it just to make it stop. From a great distance, gravel shouted through the muffled. From a great distance, gravel, not grave. Gravel shouted through the muffled veil. Say the curtain. We'll just say curtain. The muffled curtain of Waldo's damaged hearing. Why? Say that was the question of the ages, wasn't it? Why? Why any of this? Why keep going on like this? Okay, that's good stuff. All right, let's keep rolling along. We're getting there. I want to be sure they're all down for good. If deep had been any farther, because it's distance, if deep had been any farther away, Waldo would have picked up none of that statement. Okay, if he did survive this, which seemed darkly laughable in that moment, what was it going to be like navigating a world full of zombies while Waldo dealt with damaged hearing? All right. Through the slice of light, Waldo could still see the bore of the weapon passed slowly over his face from right to left. Okay. Let's say the head of another dispatched zombie with the blunt end of a bone sticking out of its eye socket. That's two words, eye socket. Alright, the head of another dispatched zombie with the blunt end of a bone sticking out of its eye socket shifted as the barrel of Deep's rifle let's say Deep Voices rifle rested against the back of the skull. This body was slightly to Waldo's left, but not far enough for Waldo to avoid eating the pass-through. Okay, what's he gonna do? What's he gonna do? He was firmly in the path of the coming shot. Is this the end of Waldo? Be weird if it was, because we're not quite done. Alright. Waldo cared, let's say, Waldo cared more about the horrible, painful sound. Alright, let's spell horrible correctly while we're here. He cared more about the horrible, painful sound than he did the prospect of being shot. He wanted his fingers in his ears more than he cared about anything else. The bones shifted. Come on. The bones parted as he moved up his hands. He didn't care about discovery or escape, really. He couldn't bear to touch his right ear where he felt blood flowing out, say trickling. We don't want it to be flowing. We're not trying to have him bleed to death here. He couldn't bear to touch his right ear where he felt blood trickling out past the tips of his fingers. With all that zombie brain gore over his right fist, it wouldn't do to stick those fingers in his ears anyway. In his ear anyway. Okay. Only after he plugged his left ear did he decide to move to the right a little. All right, we're almost there, but I want to come to a good stopping point. Another blast, but this one was heavily muffled. Still, his right ear that barely registered the noise of it to his brain. Okay, another blast, but this one was heavily muffled. Still, his right ear that barely registered the noise of it to his brain. Okay, what do I want to say here? Still, his right ear that barely registered the noise of it to his brain sparked with a new wave of terrible pain. Let's say his body shifted down deeper into the pile as more bones behind and under him broke apart and turned into powder. Alright. I think I may have too much story here. I'm going to get... Okay, we're going to be at 37.5. I'm pretty much there right now. So that would leave me a little over 10,000 words, a little over 12,000 words to finish the story. And if I get to there, I got a couple more major beats to hit before the end, so I may be pushing for a bigger story, but we'll have to see. Alright, we will stop there for now. Next paragraph will begin tomorrow, and we'll get to 40,000 words tomorrow, but I'm at 37,544. So let me pull up my profile here. Update 37,544. Alright, so I'll update my progress. I'm happy with that. Update my progress. I've done 14 straight days in a row. I've actually done 15. We'll never get to 21 because my plan is to finish on the 20th, even if I have to power through like a super long ending to the story. But there's more story to tell, so I got to get there at some point. Let's take a quick look at my friends. Again, this is morning, and so many people haven't updated today because they probably haven't gotten all their writing done, but we'll take a look anyway to see who has written. Alright, let's take a look at Oscar Jones. He put on a lot of work yesterday. So we'll... hold on, let me get to him first. Click in. Alright, Oscar Jones, Demons and Disaster, a fantasy novel. He's at 37,218. He wrote about 10,000 words yesterday, believe it or not. And he's aching from that writing marathon. Sometimes it's hard to keep from burning out when you write that much all at once, but he's well along and blasting on through. He's on a 20-day pace now and doing great, so good job, Oscar. I can't believe you wrote that much. Not that I'm saying you're not capable of it, because obviously you are. I'm just saying that's an amazing number of words for a single day. Alright, so excellent job there, sir. Alright, who else? I think we saw that yesterday. Is Armand updated? He's writing today. We saw that yesterday. So I may need to give everybody more time to write. That's where he was yesterday. Yeah, everybody's kind of in the same place. Oh, poor Bill Fisher. Let's talk about him for a minute. Not an update here, but we're kind of in a strange place. Bill posted my worst nightmare as a writer. He was actually getting ready to back up stuff on his computer and came in, and there was some kind of glitch or problem, and he lost the last 25,000 words of the novel he was writing. So he was in kind of a rough mood yesterday. He's kind of looking for some computer folks to go through his stuff and see if maybe he can pull it back. He can always rewrite it, of course, which is maybe what he has to do. But losing that much of a story and having to write it again is really nightmare fuel for me. That's kind of why I back up my stuff a couple different ways. And I'm still nervous something might happen. That drives me crazy. While we're on that subject, let me show you what I do to back up my stuff. So, pull up my archive. All right, those of you familiar with Trello, I've done work on that before. Trello is Trello's a sort of an organization system for companies and things like that. You have lists and boards and all that. I divide my lists for this archive by letter, so I got A through Z, and then I put my stories on here. Now, you see some of these have thumbnails on there, and that's because when I write live on stream, I will create thumbnails for the stories, and we'll put those, when I do the videos on YouTube and stuff, so I keep those on this board too. So let's just look at, I'm seeing what's in view because I don't have this sized correctly. How much does it cost? Trello costs nothing. So for free, you get a certain amount of storage. I'm not sure the number of megabytes or whatever that you can store, but it's enough for most stories and most of the artwork. Now, I did a paid version, which I don't remember what it was, how many dollars a month or how many dollars a year. I paid for a year, so I don't remember the totals, but I paid for more, so I had a larger area of storage, and that allowed me to put in some larger files, including bigger artwork and some of the larger publication files. This was a pain in the butt to get set up because I had so many stories. None of them were organized. I had to go through pieces of yellowing notebook paper. I had to go through files on old computers. I had to pull some up from emails. I had to go through Amazon to try to remind myself of everything I'd written. I had to go through old emails to remind myself of everything I'd submitted. But I'd run into the problem that I'd written so many stories that I couldn't keep track of them all. I couldn't remember where I said it. Spell it for me, please. It's Trello. So I'll put that into the chat there. So Trello, Trello.com. And I do a few different things in here. I'll pull it over to some of my other stuff too. But you can see all the stories here. And this is actually a short story collection I'm putting together of not all the stories, of some of the better stories that I've written on stream. It's going to include links to the videos, so people who are reading the ebook or the print version will be able to see. We'll be able to see the videos too. I need to do this. It is such a crazy amount of time finding a story. Is there an affiliate link you have? So if I do get, you get something. Not really. And again, to start with, just do the free version and get it set up. And then if you decide you need bigger file space, you can do that. There were a couple pieces of artwork that were too big for the free version. I was able to, with the free version, I was still able to put on like the PDFs of entire novels. I was able to put in the Mobi files of a couple things. There's just stuff like that. A few of them got big enough to where there wasn't quite enough space to put all that stuff on there. So I went for the paid version. I also use this with several companies. So there's more than one person that I write for freelance that uses Trello, so it was just to my advantage to have it. But start with the free version because you don't actually need. Well, okay, I will give a caveat. With the free version, you only get 10 boards, but you can put as much stuff on a board as you want. So unless you have multiple different things you want on different boards, you can probably create everything you want on the free version. You can kind of learn that as you go, and you can change it too. So if you have a board you don't need anymore, you can clear it off and make it into something different. Just as an example, I'll go ahead and update. So this is Ruthless, Rabid, Raging, Ravenous, Rampaging, so forth, the actual cover. And so I have all the cover images and like the inside stuff and all that saved here. So on here I have described what it is. I have NaNoWriMo November 2021, Twitch, YouTube, and that's where all that stuff is going. I have all the attachments here so I can see the back covers and the clean version of the covers I've created and all that. But biggest thing is I got the story there. So normally I would do this off screen, but I'll do the attachment. I'll look to my computer. I'm going to do Ruthless. Okay, I'm in the wrong section. I'm looking at the download. So let me get to my documents file. So I type in Ruthless, and there it is. I click it, click open, and then it saves. So now I have it saved on my computer. I have it saved here. I hope I have it saved on my computer. Hold on, let me make sure I have an updated version here. I did save it. Okay. And now, like, I have the added yesterday. I can go and delete this one. Now, the disadvantage is if you delete something, it's gone. So you got to be careful not to accidentally delete something maybe you don't have anywhere anymore. Of course, this is just for like ultimate backup. Now, at the same time, you can do this, not the same thing because you can't see everything at once, but you can back something up on like a drive or in your email or 100 other ways. This is just the way I've organized, but again, it took me months to get this set up, and then I have to be committed to do it. So I write 2 or 3 stories a week with Trello and everything. I'm not Trello, but with Twitch and everything else, and so I have to keep track of those on there. So just as an example, let me pull up another story here. So I've backed up the novel that I'm writing right now. All right, so you can see there's the covers of books that I have. All right, let's just look at, you can see it goes all the way down, so you got stories going on forever. I got way too many. I have hundreds of stories that I've written over my career here. So let's just look at the Happy Pumpkin. This has not actually been published anywhere. I believe I'm putting it up on Patreon if it hasn't popped up already. It may be, I'm already scheduling stuff for next year's Patreon. All right, so we click on Happy Pumpkin, and the Happy Pumpkin is 3,550 words. I put that in the title so I know what it is. A carnivorous pumpkin sets a trap on Halloween so it might feast. I've also included the keywords so I can search by keyword too: horror, Halloween, humor, gore, splatter. And so I can, if I go up to the top, I can search for this. So let's say I'm looking for Halloween stories. Actually, I don't want to do that because I use the word Halloween for some of the stuff I put on Patreon. So let's say I'm looking for, we'll say gore. So jump to gore. All right, so there's Happy Pumpkin. Actually, am I on screen here? Yeah, there's Happy Pumpkin. I got a story called Imposter, Friendly Rivalry, Distressed. All of those are described as gore. So if I click on this, the image for Happy Pumpkin, it pulls up the same thing. So I can search by those keywords. I wrote that on Twitch on September 21st, 2021. It was on YouTube. I edited it on Twitch. I read it on Twitch. And then Patreon story, 31 Horrors for Halloween. Stories for Halloween. It's going to appear on October 31st, 2022. So that's already scheduled on my Patreon. That's how far ahead and organized I am, at least on this stuff. And then you can see the other images I have here. So these are the thumbnails that I used for the various times that I wrote it, edited it, and then read it on Patreon. And these are the ones that appear on YouTube. So the thumbnails for YouTube and Trello are basically the same. The same dimensions, I mean. So we have all of that, and I can scroll down through here. I do several young reader stories. Where is my thing? There it is. So in the Y section, I have all these young reader stories that I do for Patreon for free for people, and all those appear. This is, we'll look at one of the novels. This is the Vampire Christ, Book 1. And I have the novel, vampire, satire, political, religious, social, horror. Disheartened preacher discovers the Bible is a secret history of vampires. It was self-published in 2019. I have the covers. I have the documents. There's also books that I have all the files for too. So let's look at Curse of the Ratman. That was released recently with Godless. Alright, so I got the Curse of the Ratman cover. You can go to my About page and click on that if you'd like to buy that for just a few cents. It's not even $1. It's an exclusive ebook with Godless. It's 34,000 words, so that's a novella. Yeah, so I got it. It was submitted and rejected somewhere, and then I put part of it up on Patreon, and now it's published. I need to update this, so this will be a good time to do that. So let's say it was published on Godless. exclusive. And that was in October. I don't remember the exact date. It was early October, so 10/21. All right. So I saved that, and now my history of the story is updated. I had the cover. There was an image that Drew over at Godless made. I saved that as well. This is the Kobe file. I'm sorry, the Moby file. This is the ebook, EPUB file. I have the PDF. I have the cover with no text. The cover is a JPEG. I have all the ads that I put in the back of that book. I have the edited document from the last Word file of it that I made. The back covers. There we go. So that's all that stuff is saved. Now again, I do the paid version, so I get slightly higher file downloads, but there's no limit to the number of downloads. It's just the free version has a certain file size you're allowed to do, and the paid version has a bigger file size. But for most artwork, for most Word file, for all Word files essentially, for most publishing files, the free version is big enough to get most of that stuff on there. I wanted everything. So all the artwork and files that were too big, I went ahead and paid to have an archive there. So that's where I keep. This is my emergency backup. Now, of course, if like something terrible happens to this company and some of this stuff goes away before I have a chance to re-download it, I may be in trouble. At this moment, the old computer still exists, so I could pull those files again that I don't have on this new one. So, chances are I'm okay. But again, there's nothing that's perfect. Like nothing could ever go wrong on the internet or with this company or anything else. But this is what I use as an archive, and it's really convenient for me to find something. So let's say a publisher asked me to do crime fiction. I wasn't planning on doing a whole lesson here on this stuff, but so I'll say crime fiction. Let me just put in crime. We'll make it. So I have The Hidden Truth. I know a lot of this isn't perfectly on screen. I have The Hidden Truth that I co-wrote with Armand Rosamilia. I have Men Who Only Seek the Sun at Night, is a 2,400 word story. So if they want something smaller than that or bigger than that, I have Unspoken Prayer Request, which is less than 2,000. Someone is Wrong on the Internet is another crime story. Register 6 is 33,300. The Murders Have Started Again was one. Room 138 I included under crime fiction, even though it's time travel story. It's got mystery, it's thriller, but there is some crime elements in it as well. The 10-Year Drunk is 7,800 words, and that was published a long time ago. Show more cards, please. So then I can go down through all of these stories. Now, the older they get... Oh, Killer on Stonewall Jackson Drive is a good story. I should get that somewhere. I put it up on Patreon a while back. But that was an interesting story. I should do something with that. Maybe even just do it as a reading sometime. Right, but that's how I keep track of everything. That's how I find stuff. That's how I kind of figure out what stories I want to submit, and I can see their whole history as well to know where they've been. Trying to remember which. I have a story that was submitted a bunch of times and rejected every time. I'm not sure if this is but I got it submitted several places. So I submitted it. This is called Mutual Assured Destruction. It's also a time travel thing, but it's almost like a time travel dystopia. I was experimenting with that because I was planning to write a novel that kind of played with those, but I submitted it and got it rejected 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times, and then it got published. I forgot about that. It was published in 2014, so rejected 6 times, published once. I don't know if that's a testament on how the story is. I know I write better stories now. I've kind of reached a point where the older the story is, a lot of times the less satisfied I'm with it. Because I think I'm writing much better stuff now. I think I got a better handle on what makes a good story and what possibilities can go. But again, I guess all that to say, this is where I back up. So I one of my worst nightmares is losing a story or losing something I'm working on. So even when I have a story in progress, all right, for example, let's say not tomorrow, but the Tuesday after next, I'm going back to regular schedule. So I'll be done with the first draft of this NaNoWriMo novel by the 20th. So then the following Tuesday, the Tuesday before Thanksgiving, I'm going to take Wednesday and Thursday off, but I'll still do my regular Tuesday schedule. I have the stories that I've already started writing but aren't finished with. Okay, so let's look at As Empty as Heaven. That's one. I think it's over here in the A, so that's actually going to be off screen. That's not a good example. Okay, let's do Who Gets What. That's a story I haven't actually written yet, but I'm going to write it on Tuesday. All right, so Who Gets What? There we are. So right now, the only thing on Who Gets What is the thumbnails. I got 4 thumbnails for that one because I found some pictures I like. I don't have a word count yet because it's not finished. I don't have its publishing history because it's not finished yet. And so I would put that stuff in and I would save the unfinished document in here so that if anything happened on my computer, I'm not starting over. Tom asks, did you change anything on it before it got accepted or just found the right venue? Okay, you're talking about that weird time travel thing. I sort of re-edited it each time. Now, again, we're talking back 2014 and prior, so I wasn't quite, not quite, I wasn't anywhere near the writer back then that I am now. So back then I didn't understand what was wrong with it. Now I do, and even though it's been published somewhere, it's still a very flawed story. But I did make small changes as I went along, but I really didn't make significant changes. If I were rewriting that story now, I would do a lot different. It needed better character work. It needed to be less confusing because time travel stories are always confusing. But yeah, there's a lot of flaws with that one. So I didn't improve it very much. I just found somebody that wanted it. I guess that's the answer. One story that benefited greatly from being rejected, and then I worked on it some more, was one called Short Straw. I almost didn't remember the title. So let's look this up. Short Straw, there we are. It's 6,900 words. And a boy gets singled out to wake up once a year to take care of his family's suspended animation chamber. Science fiction, apocalypse, monster, classic. All right. And when I say classic, I meant that, it takes after classic sci-fi. It kind of imitates that. I had a person who rejected it sent me some feedback and said that 2 characters that didn't actually confront each other at the end needed to do that. Yeah, this is one that what made it into an anthology. But he mentioned that not having those 2 characters confront at the end weakened the story, and that and I didn't realize it at the time, but he said this harkens back to classic sci-fi, and so if you lean into that, you're going to improve what makes the story great. And so he didn't want the story, but he went on with that. That feedback actually made me rewrite the story into something much, much better. And so I submitted it to Spencer Hill Press, Doorways to Extra Time Anthology, got it rejected. Submitted to Asimov and rejected. Submitted tons of things to Asimov and got them rejected. Submitted to ARC and got it rejected. Those 2 were just huge markets that reject everything. Bourbon Pen was a press that's actually near me, and it was in issue 11 in 2016. So that got accepted. And then it was in my favorite story, Project Entertainment Network anthology in 2017. So that was a story that made significant changes before it ever got accepted somewhere. Yeah, but that's all that to say. That's the way I keep track of stories. Let me see if I can figure out how many stories I have. So this is everything I've written so far in my life. Thank you for the follow, Stark. I appreciate it. All right, so you can search by, give me just a moment here to remember what I'm doing. Okay, submit by labels. No, I don't want to search by that. There's a way to search by, what do I want? I want the menu. Search by no due date. All right, what are you using to track your stories like that? That's handy. This is Trello. So it's really like a corporate office thing that allows you to, like, I could invite other people to this board or whatever. I don't want to because it's really sensitive stuff. I don't want anyone to accidentally delete. My wife is on it, so if anything happens to me, you know, the stories are there if she wants to resell some stuff. But it's primarily used for teams to work together on things, so you can keep track of boards. I'm using it here as an archive. So I have that. How did I search? Filter. Yeah, here we go. No due dates. That's what so I don't have any due dates on this. So I have 569 stories. That's how many stories I have. So that includes all my novels and everything else. Every short story, every novel. I've written 569 total stories in my lifetime. That's a lot. It's a lot of words that I've done, and of course, not all of them are good. But if you do enough, eventually you got some good ones too.